Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into India's economic story, which, according to the latest economic survey, is pretty remarkable. See, while the rest of the world is facing some major economic turbulence, India seems to be charting a whole different course. And we're going to break down exactly how.
So, to really get why India's performance is such a big deal, you have to look at the global picture first. And honestly, it's a mess out there. You've got geopolitical tensions, major disruptions to trade, and different economies are all growing at completely different speeds. The whole landscape is just full of uncertainty. And that really brings us to the central question, right? In the middle of all this chaos, how has an economy as big as India's managed to not just survive, but actually keep up some serious momentum? That's the puzzle we're here to unpack.
So, first, let's just dig into those global challenges a little more, because you can't really appreciate the strength of the ship until you understand the size of the storm it's sailing through. Okay, take a look at this chart. It's basically a measure of global economic policy uncertainty. And the key thing to notice is how high and jagged those lines are on the right. That tells us that uncertainty is at a historically high level. This isn't just a vague feeling of anxiety. It's a real, measurable thing driven by fractured global politics and unpredictable policies. It's just a tough environment for anyone to operate in. And this uncertainty, it creates very real pressures. For instance, you've got central banks and major economies all pulling in different directions. Government deficits are still much higher than they were before the pandemic. And maybe most importantly, foreign direct investment, that crucial money flowing between countries, is actually shrinking globally. On top of all that, countries are now using their economic policies like strategic weapons, not just tools for growth.
But against that pretty gloomy background, a completely different story is playing out. So let's pivot and turn our focus to what's happening inside the Indian economy.
And here it is, the big number, 7.4%. That's the estimated growth in real GDP for the fiscal year. Now, this isn't just a strong number on its own. It means India is set to be the fastest growing major economy in the entire world for the fourth year in a row. So the question is, how is this possible? Well, the answer really starts on the demand side of the economy. It all comes down to what people and businesses are actually spending their money on. The economic survey really boils it down to two powerful engines running at the same time. First, you have private consumption. That's just all the stuff that you and I are buying. And second, you have investment. That's the money going into building new things like factories, roads, and bridges. These two domestic forces are the real core of India's growth engine. This chart really tells the consumer story perfectly. In the first half of the fiscal year, private consumption grew by 7.5%. And not only is that a big number, but get this, it's actually higher than the average growth before COVID. In fact, consumer spending makes up a bigger piece of the economic pie now than it has in over 10 years. And that second engine, it's firing just as powerfully. Investment is growing at 7.6%, and just like consumption, that's also outpacing the pre-pandemic trend. A lot of this is being driven by a huge push in government spending on infrastructure, and that, in turn, is giving private companies the confidence to start investing again, too. Okay, so demand is strong. People are buying, and companies are building. But where is all this growth actually coming from? Who's making all this stuff? Let's flip over and look at the supply side. This table lays it all out pretty clearly. The services sector is the undisputed leader here. Just look at that. It's expanding at a massive 9.1%. But manufacturing is also really strong at 7%, and the industrial sector as a whole is growing at over 6%. Agriculture is a bit slower, but it provides a really important, stable base for the economy. Now, the survey goes way beyond just the numbers. It introduces this really fascinating strategic idea for how India can navigate this messy new global environment. The concept is called strategic indispensability. At the heart of this strategy is a concept called economic statecraft. Now, this isn't just about using economic policy to make your country richer. It's about deliberately using your economic tools, like trade, finance, and investment, to achieve your bigger strategic goals, like foreign policy and national security. It's an old idea, but it's making a major comeback. So what's the ultimate goal of all this? The survey puts it perfectly right here in this quote. The goal is to achieve strategic indispensability. What does that mean? It means your economy becomes so critical to global supply chains, providing things that are so important that other countries just can't easily replace you. And that gives you influence and, most importantly, security. And this isn't just some theory from a textbook. We are seeing these tools used all over the world right now. Think about the US controls on semiconductor exports, or China's restrictions on rare earth minerals, or even the EU's new carbon tariffs. This is the new game being played on the global economic field. So let's tie all of this together and look at the final major takeaway from the survey. It makes a pretty bold claim about India's future, suggesting that we're seeing a fundamental shift in its economic potential. And here's the second big number of our explainer, 7%. The argument here is that all the reforms over the past several years have fundamentally raised India's potential growth rate for the medium term. This isn't just a one-year forecast. It's an assessment of the economy's new underlying speed limit, its capacity to grow year after year. And this new potential is really built on three pillars. First, you got that virtuous cycle of public and private investment, which keeps building new capacity. Second, the labor force is getting bigger, more of it is entering the formal economy, and people are getting better skilled. And third, there are these huge productivity gains being unlocked by things like digital public infrastructure and other big efficiency reforms. Which really leaves us with this one big question to chew on. In a world where economics and geopolitics are getting more tangled up every single day, maybe the path to long-term growth isn't just about what you do at home anymore. Maybe becoming strategically indispensable is the most resilient economic strategy of them all.